Hello, people. Today, I'd like to begin my morning by making a meditation on one of the passage from the book, The Worldly Wisdom, The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. So I'd like to read the passage and think about it aloud for 20 minutes. I guess 20, 30 minutes is the limit today. Yesterday, I also did meditation on Baltasar Gracian's passages, and I was talking for almost an hour, for 40 minutes about one short passage, and I decided that it's too much, so I have to limit myself and not to speak more than 20 minutes, or maybe 30 if necessary, if I'll discover something really amazing. This week, I'm working on temperance. It's one of the virtues, temperance, one of the cardinal classic virtues: prudence, fortitude, temperance, and justice. Yeah, last week we discussed prudence, and I dedicated perhaps 5 hours or even more to record videos about prudence, to think about it. Well, I was thinking about it much more, but I dedicated 5 hours to make something, to make some content related to prudence. And now I'm going to do the same with temperance. I'm not sure exactly how much time I'm going to dedicate to make content, but essentially, I hope that I'll record videos on a daily basis, short meditation, and use some books. And also I'll talk about my own experience and about how I understand temperance. Since this word obviously may refer to a particular phenomena, which may be described or referred to by other words. So in modern language, we usually say self-discipline or just discipline or mind control, thought control. So there may be different words, and my goal is to clarify the concept of temperance, like an ancient concept of temperance, which was called in ancient Greek sophrosine, S-O-F-R-O-S, sophros, sophrosine. Okay, doesn't matter. So it's also known as the restraint, the practice of self-control, abstention, discretion and moderation, tempering the appetition. The appetition is perhaps desire. Yeah. Plato considered this virtue, which also may be translated as sound-mindedness, to be the most important virtue. So for Plato, well, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I'll going to investigate during this week. But today, as I said, this meditation on one passage, which is 31st passage of the book, The Art of Worldly Wisdom. So the passage is called Never Exaggerate. And I have chosen this passage because there's word temper, and here it is used as a noun or as a verb. Basically, he used it to advise you to control or to not allow to your esteem to exaggerate. And yeah, I'm going to read the entire passage, and once again, I have 20 minutes to think about it. It isn't wise to use superlatives. They offend the truth and cast doubt on your judgment. By exaggerating, you squander your prize and reveal a lack of knowledge and taste. Praise awakens curiosity, which begets desire, and later, when the goods esteem overpriced, as often happens, expectation feels cheated and avenges itself by running down the praised and the praiser. The prudent show restraint and would rather fall short than long. True eminences are rare. True eminences are rare. So temper your esteem. To overvalue something is a form of lying. It can ruin your reputation for good taste and even worse, for wisdom. All right, what's going on here? So we're advised to not use superlatives and not praise something more than it deserves. And I guess it's kind of common sense. So, though often in conversations, we may see that people exaggerate all the time. And there's even some metaphors which like people exaggerate, some metaphors like gazillion times, right? Or billion times, which is obvious exaggeration, but it became a metaphor. So when you say something, I've done something gazillion times or billion times or million times, it's the way to say I've done something many times, but it's a very strong exaggeration if we look at it, if we consider the word by its literal meaning. And often it affects us in a way which is not, well, it's hard to explain. Okay, let me just read slowly this passage. It isn't wise to use superlatives. So let's just take the first sentence. So it isn't wise to use superlatives. Is it really true? Let's stop and think about it for a moment. In my view, I would say that sometimes it's very smart to use superlatives, depending on what exactly we want to get from our communication. Sometimes it's stupid, sometimes it's smart. We can say that if we always say the truth, and if we describe the truth literally, we'll be wise. Sometimes we'll be fools if we do not exaggerate when the situation requires exaggeration. Otherwise, probably exaggeration wouldn't exist at all, and our language wouldn't have this capacity for, saying something about the thing which is obviously not true, but an exaggeration. But yeah, he basically makes a statement, and then he goes on and gives his reasons. And what I want to understand, what I want to do here, is analyze his reasons. I would say that in my experience, I see that people exaggerate too much, and probably for somebody it will be a good advice if I tell you that you shouldn't exaggerate, and you really think about it, and you start seeing every conversation through these lenses, you'll discover that often you do it more than necessary. And I, of course, do it more than necessary. And for me, like, it's just a way, it's a way to practice my communication skills, to be aware whenever I exaggerate, am I doing it on purpose, or it's simply a habit? And if it's a habit, maybe I have to reduce this habit, since it may make me, sound silly, or it may make me, not an effective communicator. But anyway, yeah, I think it deserves to pay, like, it deserves. Okay, this is something which may be taken seriously, and like an exercise, I would say. I'd like to think about it, like, not just in this particular meditation, but later, like, probably to keep my attention on it for a couple of weeks or a month. Just make a goal and see, like, analyze every conversation through these lenses and ask, okay, have I exaggerated on something? since now I'm recording philosophical dialogues and communicate with people, and I'm recording also lots of videos where I talk about topics which I'd like to understand better, which I study. I see that like it's very powerful technique if I simply pay attention whether or not I exaggerate when I talk about certain things. Yeah, it makes lots of sense, and I probably try to do it. And you, if you're watching this video, you may like try to do it as well. So you may basically analyze all your conversations, and probably not just conversations, but also your thoughts, because like conversations, perhaps we don't have an opportunity to have lots of conversations on a daily basis, but still we're always aware, and throughout our conscious experience during the day for 16 hours, each of us think about something. Maybe it's not happens all the time, but still in your thoughts, when you start thinking, you may use this advice and see how you think and analyze your thoughts. And whenever you see an exaggeration, you basically may pay attention and try to control whether or not it helps you, to understand things which you're thinking about better if you do an exaggeration. And again, it's very practical thing. It may be used on a daily basis, and I guess there's no way to find the real. You can say that, okay, now I always speak the truth, I always tell the truth, and I do not exaggerate. I guess it's impossible to get to this excellence, to develop. It's kind of virtue. We may consider it as a virtue, but still, just being aware that there is such a thing as exaggeration, and people exaggerate a lot, and you probably do the same. Being aware of that and trying to master your thoughts, your language, through paying attention how much you exaggerate, and ask yourself questions whether or not it makes sense to do that, or maybe trying to reduce it if you exaggerate a lot, or maybe if you do not exaggerate, if you fall short all the time when you speak about something, you have to increase your exaggeration, maybe to let's say truth. Yeah, I guess the mean here, like exaggeration and overestimation of something, underestimation of something. So overestimation, underestimation, and the truth is in between. And it makes sense to think using this, this idea, and trying to get to the middle ground, trying to get to the mean, and not exaggerate a lot and not underestimate things a lot. But anyway, so let's read some reasons. Of course, in some cases, once again, so in some cases, it may be very wise to exaggerate, and we shouldn't take it literally. Like, it isn't wise to use superlatives. Sometimes it's like the most important thing, we may say, right? It's like superlative, in English, the most important, or, the est, right? So the est, when you say the best thing, or the smartest guy whom I ever seen, or the greatest video. So it's a superlative. And here, whenever we use superlatives, we have to be aware. So if you want to practice this technique, I don't know how to call it properly, but the idea is, if we want to follow this advice and improve our communication, our speech, it makes a lot of sense to pay attention to all superlatives. Whenever we use the est, we have to be aware, at least, that we are doing that, and then probably work on it. So they offend the truth and cast doubt on our judgment. So superlatives offend the truth and cast doubt on our judgment. Yeah, and when we say, like, when you hear somebody saying that this is the greatest thing, or this is the most beautiful woman, or this is the most fascinating experience, if you take it literally, you may, and the thing which people are talking about is something small and unimportant, it immediately creates some negative perception, or some doubt. Yeah, let's just use his language. So it casts doubt on someone's judgment. So if we communicate with people who always use superlatives, we may immediately see that they aren't aware of their speech, and they don't even understand that they're exaggerating all the time. And that's, if you just start paying attention, the point is, again, you use this advice, right? But you take it seriously, try to analyze it in depth. And then you try to notice whenever people do that. And if you, and of course, you try to notice it in your own thoughts. And if you start paying attention, you'll see immediately that, first of all, you're doing it a lot. And then when you're able to see it in yourself, you'll see it in everyone so easily. And probably it may become so annoying that people will just talk about, the use superlatives all the time, and you won't be able to communicate with them. I remember my experience in, I was practicing speech and like clear speech, and I started recording videos. It was 2013, and my first video, I was nervous, and I repeated one phrase all the time. And this was a phrase, and if we translate it in English, it would be similar to "so to speak." And I was saying "so to speak" almost in every sentence. And then when I watched myself, when I watched the video after recording it, I realized, wow, that's terrible. Am I using this phrase all the time when I speak to people? And I started noticing that, yes, I used this phrase very often when I talk to people. And I started working on it, and I reduced it to I almost got rid of it. I didn't use it in my speech, and it took me probably a couple of weeks or maybe a month. And then I was, wow, that's so cool. Now I can avoid using this, let's say, filler in my speech. And it makes my speech much more understandable and direct and clear. But then I started seeing in everybody, like when they use some fillers, not just this one, but similar fillers, I was, wow, they aren't aware that they use it all the time, and it's so difficult. And of course, you face a challenge. On the one hand, you want to help these people and say, look, guys, it's very powerful just to be aware of your fillers and to do some exercises to get rid of them and become better communicators. And on the other hand, you don't want to offend anybody, since sometimes you may just, if you tell somebody that he speaks, in his speech there are lots of likes. It was an actual experience. A few weeks ago, we had a conversation, and one of the participants at my speaking club, he tried to develop an idea. In every sentence, he used like. So he said like, and it was humorous. I don't remember exactly the context, but he described something, and it was very suitable to emphasize that he uses likes all the time. And I did that. I said, like, you use likes. I did not like that, of course, but it was like, it's hard to explain it right now since I have to recover the entire context. But it was inoffensive. So I did it. I was aware that if I just point it out, it's not an offense. I'm trying to help this man to realize what he is doing and focus his attention on it, and probably to get rid of this habit. But he took it offensively at first. He said, "Oh, you are just like," for him it was as if I tried to mock him, as if I tried to make fun of him, which wasn't the case. But anyway, so we have to be clear when we talk to other people about something that we think is, when we work on our communication, when we work on our speech, when we get rid of some negative habit or something that we don't like in ourselves, we will immediately notice it in other people. And we must understand that often it's not wise to tell other people about their habit. We may emphasize it. Like if we directly say it, it will never work. Never, again, it's an exaggeration. Sometimes, of course, it may work. But I guess there may be some ways to inoffensively explain people that, maybe tell a story about yourself. For example, I'm working on pillars for 4 years consciously. So I'm doing most of my talks here are my exercises. So I use them as an exercises to reduce the amount of fillers, to control my grammar, to control my emotions. Sometimes it gets better. Sometimes I see that I may, lapse back, and even if I master, for example, avoiding such words as just or it's like, I may really focus on it for a week or for a couple of weeks, and it's almost clear. So I see my speech becomes clear, but then after a month, it gets back again, and I constantly have to work on it. And yeah, but it's funny. But once again, when we talk about it, and when we want to influence other people, to make them notice that they also do certain things which aren't tasteful, let's say, we have to do it in a particular way. And to tell a story, for example, if I see that somebody often says like or or anything which makes him sound worse, instead of saying, look, you are just always say you have to get rid of it, you have to learn to speak clearly. So instead of that, we may tell a story like, for example, when I started recording videos, I always repeated so to speak, or it's like, or just, all the time. And then I realized it was so powerful when I realized that I'm doing that. And after conscious work, after I started working on this habit, I could reduce it to the minimum for a couple of weeks. I tried it, and it made my speech much more clear. It made my it made just thinking and speaking much more enjoyable. And do you see, what you may ask, what do you think about it? Like, do you like when you use certain fillers in your speech? Okay, I have just a few minutes to finish. As I said, I don't want to talk more than 20 minutes, and I see that I go aside often, but it helps me just to to understand better what's going on. So I've read just few sentences. They offend the truth and cast doubt on your judgment. Superlatives. And I'm trying to think about it, not just to read this advice or passage and explain what it means. I'm trying to think, how can I use it on a practical level in my life? So this is very practical advice, and I'll probably think about it like for the next month, trying to analyze all my superlatives. So whenever I say the est, or always, or never, so such strong words, I want to be aware and understand whether or not it's actually true. Anyway, yeah, and well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more sentences. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to get through all his reasons. I have to finish here. Probably I'll get back to this passage later. Well, I'll just think about it on my own. As I said, I don't want to talk more than 20 minutes. That's why I have to finish here. So see you next time. Bye-bye.